people can do to malign and mess up somebody's reputation. She has served this nation. She's still serving this nation in the military. She's running for president, and she deserves respect for that. So if somebody got some, don't come at her like that, or any candidate. It's not just her, but any candidate. But I do believe, and I agree with Brother Van Jones when he put it out there, that some of this is some revenge for her supporting the senator in 2016 and really calling out the DNC. It's wrong. So whoever we support, we must never go that far and start the red bait. We went through a red scare in this country in the 1950s under McCarthyism, and I just think that it is wrong for people.
Miss Nina Turner is Bernie Sanders' lieutenant. I think I can say that with a certain degree of, I think that's for the most part true. And despite Sanders being somewhat sheepish in the way that Sanders talks about issues, she's been less so. Nina Turner came out supporting Gabbard, being very clear, this is wrong, and not just wrong, this is dangerous. We should not malign and destroy reputations in this way. And if you look at the letter that Hillary Clinton sent Gabbard, yes, what Nina Turner is saying is right. A lot of this is just mean-spirited bitterness from 2016. She was also willing to get on stage and call Warren a copy, essentially an echo. And again, as an absolute flat fact, I think that's true. I mean, with a certain degree of, with a modicum of changes, in the sense that, in a weird way, we're still playing 2016 again. I mean, ultimately, Warren has the establishment to back her, and the moment that Biden eats it, corpse walking, they will back Warren whole hog. And this dodgy stuff that she's doing with the funding and all this other stuff, essentially pretending to be grassroots when not necessarily so. I guess my point is, it's a copy, but it's a poorly formed one. And yet, the strategy has been to fly under Sanders' wing and pretend that that poorly formed copy is similar in some kind of way to the real thing. I have questions for Miss Nina Turner. People have interviews with her, and I always find that the questions that I have are never the questions that other people have. I was watching Jordan's interview. He did a good interview with Miss Nina Turner, but as I watched the interview, I had all sorts of questions that nobody asked. Nobody asked. They didn't answer in this interview. Jordan didn't answer in his. So my hope is that if I keep this succinct, that Miss Turner will either respond on Twitter, respond in a direct message, or if I am so blessed to come on for an interview, I would keep it short. I won't necessarily bug her. I won't interrupt her. I would be an absolute gentleman on that interview. And to be fair, I'm that way on all my interviews. But questions, I'll keep it quick, from Miss Nina Turner. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox, Soapbox After Dark. It's after 12. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. They demonetize these videos from jump, so this content really is brought to you by you. Patron appreciation episode or contributor appreciation will take place this evening at 6 p.m. Oh, also, Lauren Steiner is going to be on the show tomorrow during the radio hour. So that should be really, really good. We're going to have a conversation on Warren and Tulsi. We diverge greatly on those two issues. So that should be an interesting interview. I have questions for Miss Turner. I've met Nina Turner once and had a very short conversation with her about Sanders and the strategy that Sanders takes. I have more questions for Miss Turner. I will keep it succinct. At the Bernie rally yesterday, you made it clear that Warren is a copy. That means that the campaign, to some degree, knows that her political strategy is to be a copy. Why doesn't Sanders say that? He never says it on the debate stage. You're clear. You're aware of it. You're a surrogate. And I know you guys talk and interact with one another. That means the campaign knows. That means people know that's her political strategy, to essentially be a copy. To be, in the public mind, a one-to-one, even though they're in no way a one-to-one. And in all intents and purposes, an echo. But the goal of that echo is to be close enough in regards to the public perception on things like Medicare for all and even the campaign finance stuff that people would say, okay, fair enough, these guys are close. I'll take the younger woman. But if you know that's her strategy, why doesn't he say anything? He's had 4 debates, and in none of those debates, or 3, has he brought it up. Second point, is there a deviation in the campaign? Meaning, is there a disagreement in the campaign on strategy? In the sense where the candidate doesn't want to push in a particular direction, whereas the other people in the campaign do. Is there a disagreement in the campaign? Or is everyone on the same page in the sense that essentially allow Warren to do that political strategy without any countering or pushback to that strategy? No one asks these questions that I don't understand. I mean, this seems to be the most basic thing in the world. Medicare for all. Warren on the campaign trail has said on multiple occasions that she's for many plans. You know that. You have to know that. It would be a dereliction of duty if you didn't know that. And yet Sanders never brings that up. That ultimately the reason Elizabeth Warren can't answer the question on whether or not she's going to increase taxes is because she has no idea what plan she's supporting. When she says support, she just means, theoretically, I'm okay with it. You guys have to know that. So why don't you bring that up? And I've only seen Sanders moderately mention, well, yeah, people should be honest about the taxes in the plan. That's a slight to Warren, but that's not the same thing in the way that the other candidates make a clear thing of highlighting the fact that either she's being dishonest about the taxes or at the very least she's being dishonest about the plan. Never brought up. Why? It seems, I understand it has to be tactful in the way it's done, but why? Grassroots funding. Warren in the last debate used Kamala Harris as a prop to get across that her and Sanders are effectively a one-to-one on this notion of grassroots funding throughout the campaign at perpetuity. That's not entirely true, though. The money that she got was pulled from her Senate run and dropped into her presidential campaign, meaning she was never grassroots funded in the real sense of the word. She is trying to go that going forward, but it was never brought up or it never even questioned, why are you grassroots funded here but taking money in the primary? Again, Sanders never brought it up. My basic question is why? Why doesn't a candidate bring up these things, especially when the strategy of the other party is to pretend to be that candidate? She's aping you, and she's aping you in a way that gets the public to think that you two are, for all intents and purposes, a similar quantity. It is one thing for you to say it on the campaign stage. You're a hype woman, and you do an awesome job. I've said before, I want you to be the hype woman at my funeral. But certainly you know that it's different for the candidate to do that. Why doesn't the candidate do that? Last but not least, does he want to win it? Or is he trying to push her to the left? Which one is it? And answer me honestly on that, because that's a big deal. People in 2016 gave Sanders $250 million. Think about that. Small money, don't $27 at a time. $250 million. A little, it's shy. It's like $239 million. Many of those people feel he was cheated. And not just feel, they can read Donna Brazil's letter and fully understand that they're cheated, or look into the WikiLeaks stuff and know that much more that they were cheated. They were pissed off at that, and now he's running in 2020. Shouldn't there be some, I don't want to say reciprocity, that's the wrong word for it. I guess what I'm getting at is those people gave his money because they wanted him to be his avatar and work feverishly to win. However that means to win. Meaning, is it fair to say that a campaign that doesn't necessarily try to exploit weaknesses in the opposition? Why? I am trying to understand what I think a lot of other Sanders supporters are trying to understand. And I don't know, my framing of the world doesn't allow for that potential reality of you're running in the race, you don't exploit various weaknesses in the campaign. Now, if you tell me that you believe that there's blowback, fair enough. Fair enough. But tell me something. Why does the candidate assiduously avoid, exploiting the weaknesses of a candidate in a race, in a contest to which he has entered to be president of the United States? And does he believe in his heart of hearts that he can win, or that if he loses, he wants to not tarnish the other candidate? I guess we're asking for an explanation. Explain. And would there be a point where the candidate does try to create a distinction between who he is and the copy, as you say? And if he doesn't do that, how does he expect to win when it seems that the strategy of aping him is paying off? I don't entirely buy into the post, don't misunderstand me. But with the lavish attention that Warren has been getting in the press and the media, I don't doubt that she's risen to some degree. The exploiting that weakness has to come from him. And at this point, it doesn't seem to be coming from him at all. I thank you, Miss Nina Turner, for the pleasure of interviewing you. And I'll end it here. Krillin 876, no calling tonight. No, Krillin, the show is going to be tomorrow night, the Patron Appreciation Show. And at that point, you can call into, better yet, just call into the radio station. Let's call into the radio station. All right, I'm going to leave this here because, like I said, I wanted this to be succinct, straightforward. Questions for Miss Nina Turner, I beseech you. Let's see, is there anything else? Grassroots funding, dishonest. Yeah, right, dishonesty. Last point. Fundamentally dishonest. Joe Biden, whatever you want to think of him, there's a politician in there. And that politician leapt to the point of, why can't you be honest about whether or not taxes are going to go up with Medicare for all? And not just that, it weakens Medicare for all to have dishonesty associated with it because Warren can't own up to the fact that she's not really for Medicare for all. And because of such, that she doesn't know whether taxes are going to go up at all. She said she's for many plans. That could be Kamala Harris' plan. Who knows? I guess my point is she can end up with a public option and they will scream that that's Medicare for all, just like they said the Affordable Care Act was universal health care, leaving 20 million people off the rolls. Biden is making this argument of fundamentally dishonest because you can't answer that question. That's a fair exploitive point. Many of the other campaigns have done the same. Why has Sanders shied away from that? I find that interesting. Is that not a point of exploitation? And is that not a fair point? I mean, yes, the media is using that issue of tax as opposed to savings because of their framing of the world. I mean, ultimately, these guys are millionaires paid by billionaires. And as millionaires, they take a particular ideology and framing of the world. Things they care about, things they don't. They don't care about this because this is not something that deeply affects them as it does the people who are potentially, hopefully not, watching them. Fundamentally dishonest if you can't answer the question. Why doesn't he exploit this stuff? That's what I guess I'm basically asking as the last question. It's there. It's been there for multiple debates. In fact, not just there for multiple debates, the question of campaign finance and those type of things were there in the first 3 debates. And in the 4th debate, she tried to neuter that issue by essentially saying Sanders and I are 1-to-1 on this issue. That's kind of what I mean. Why let her pretend to be Bernie Sanders when she is clearly not Bernie Sanders? And to do so for essentially the entirety of this particular election. Like, share, subscribe.